Okay, when we did meet in person in Kelowna, and I've
Yeah.
I've seen you multiple times online, and I've loved you from afar. And then like in circles, your name kept coming up. And so when we had a conversation, you and I were like, let's have one conversation and we
Yes.
will share it on both our podcasts. So we should probably introduce ourselves. I don't remember what we were like, we need to talk about this.
We were
So we'll
talking
get
about
there.
resistance originally, but I think we should just
Ooh.
talk about whatever.
I want to talk about resistance as
Okay,
well, because I think
perfect.
that is my jam, and I'm sure it's both of our jams. But why don't we just do a little intro of ourselves? And
Perfect.
yeah, so I'll let you go first. So
Okay, great.
your podcast, because they're listening to this on your show and all the things, and then I'll do my intro.
Okay, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the host of the Creatives Rule the World podcast. I am a mentor to creative entrepreneurs. I primarily help business owners go from 6 to 7 figures. And I've been known primarily in the jewelry space for a very long time with my company Flourish and Thrive Academy. And I've been supporting other creatives and helping them become wealthy with their creative gifts in my new personal brand. And I'm very excited about it. I just did a rebrand for my podcast, let's see, maybe 6 months ago. And I'm loving the new conversations and it's been super fun.
I'll get into my stuff, but what type of conversations are you loving and bringing you complete joy and excitement right now?
Just so many cool interviews with different types of people. You know, before my podcast was primarily catered towards the jewelry industry. So I was talking about marketing for jewelry and specific things on those topics. And it kind of limited the kinds of conversations that you could have. So now I've had conversations on, like today, I had my friend Jackie on who was talking about EFT tapping. I've had conversations about midlife confidence. I don't know. Now I'm like blanking. So many just great conversations about different types of things that I'm fascinated in and that I know my audience would also be fascinated about. But also it's not specific to just jewelry anymore. It's really more conversations with creatives who are doing great things in business in their life.
I love that. Well, if you are making jewelry or were, obviously there's a creative energy there. And that's how we're going to get to this conversation of resistance.
Yes.
So I'll give a little intro of who I am. And so I'm Heather Chauvin, and I am the host of the podcast Emotionally Uncomfortable. My podcast years ago actually was called Mom is in Control. When I started podcasting, I had a branding coach and I did target market research, and she was like, Heather, it is consistent that these women want help from you, because I came from the parenting space, and they want to feel in control. And I was like, well, you don't feel control. Control is the opposite of a feeling. So people are like, I need to feel in control. I need to feel in control. And so I'm like, let's unravel that. So I rebranded during COVID because I felt like I just outgrew that brand. And I've had clients say to me, the podcast didn't change. You just upgraded the name as you evolved, because motherhood is a part of my identity, but it is not all of me. And a lot of the women that I work with and speak to and talk to are highly ambitious, like high quote unquote performing professional women. 95% are raising children. The other 5% are raising, an adult or adults around them that are, as women, we're nurturers, right? And so there's this over nurturing. And so I don't center my conversation around motherhood anymore. I center it around becoming well resourced, and I dive deep into managing your energy so that you can reverse engineer how you want to feel in your life, both at home and in your work. And Tracy, I'm kind of getting that vibe from you as well, as like, as you become seasoned and evolve in your work and career, of course you're going to evolve, but you kind of understand that it's not about the thing you think it's about. It's not your marketing. It's not your sales. It's not the product. Like, let's get radically honest. And I think that's the conversation we're having today.
Yes, it's the conversation we're having, because people get so stuck in their own way and they can't get out of it.
So let's talk about resistance. Let's dive deep into resistance. Like,
where should we start?
Well, is it called The War of Art? Stephen Pressfield?
Yes.
Okay. So if anyone has not read that book, go read the book. I'm assuming you've read the book.
I read it a long time ago. I don't remember everything from it exactly word for word, but so you're going to be quoting it for me.
No, I won't be quoting it, but I just know that, like, in general, his whole philosophy around resistance, the whole book is around the war of art. Like,
Yes,
art, to me, art means life. Like, art means
it is.
creativity. Art means, like, what does your soul want to be feeling, experiencing? And the war to get there is really about, like, not self-abandoning, choosing
Yes.
yourself and choosing to
Hmm.
lean in and master resistance. So, yeah, curious your whole thoughts about that and how you kind of got to where you are. If you want to share some personal stories,
Yeah. So
just make
let's
the
talk.
reader, the
Let's go
listeners
back.
cry.
Let's go back. Well, so here's my thing about resistance. I coach people through this all the time. And I am very aware when resistance is coming up for me. And it's always a moment to pause and take a look is like, how is this trying to keep me safe? And what do I need to take a look at here? And I gave an example. I just posted something in stories right now. So I'm hosting a retreat that's happening next week. And I have 2 spots left. And I've been resistant to post about it because it feels a little bit cringy. I don't know what to say. I'm like, I feel like everyone's saying the same thing. How do I position this as something cool outside of my existing audience who knows and loves me and they're there no matter what, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. And if no one responds, no one responds. But in the practice of just putting it out there and butting up against that resistance, you actually dissolve and dissipate the feeling and energy, because resistance, all it is your body, your mind, and your subconscious trying to keep you from stepping into what's next for you and or to a bigger capacity or whatever that looks like. I mean, there's so many ways that we can look at this, right? You know, I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. I'm 54 years old. And I remember the first time I truly experienced resistance when I was trying to start a business, which it was all around, how do I actually put myself out there without having this fear of rejection, right? Because, I mean, no one really likes to be rejected, but I had to get to a point where I could make it a game. So my ex-husband came to me at one point, this is in my 20s, and he said, like, if you don't start making sales with your business, you have to go back and get a job. The deal was not that you would be making $0 for 6 months. So you have to figure it out. So I started making it a game with myself. I'm like, how can I like be my best cheerleader, cheer myself on, and move through this energy? Because all it is energy. It feels like you're going to die sometimes, but like, it's really nothing more than just like internal energy in your body that's trying to create a narrative or keep you safe. So I would make it fun. So I was like, well, what if I just did these things? And after I did them, I celebrated somehow, or I celebrated every single time someone said no to me, so that it became more fun than afraid, or I asked for feedback as to why they said no. And, you know, I was an artist. I was selling jewelry. This was back in the 90s, you know, when you had to literally pick up the phone. There was no email, and get rejected. People like hanging up the phone on you, people saying no, or walking into a store and people like trying to pretend like they weren't the you. And it was a lot harder back then. Like now people just hide behind an email address, right? So building that muscle of what is now, you know, a lot of people talk about building resilience really becomes the thing. So if you can understand that, like, when resistance is coming up, it's just trying to show you something, and it's an area in your life that can be healed, that can stretch you, that can put you in a position and in an opportunity for you to step into what's next for you. So what are your thoughts?
So I can play those games now, but I remember my early days. So when I left my former life as a social worker, I, of course, had a employee identity. And nobody tells you about the entrepreneur identity and, like, you know, the risk tolerance you have to develop.
Right.
And like you're talking about visibility and fear of rejection and all of that, but people don't even know that. It's just like when they lean into anything, any other relationship, they're like, I didn't expect an identity crisis. I didn't expect an identity shift. They call it fear, or they call it safety, right? Or certainty. Like, oh, I just need a paycheck. And I'm like,
Yes.
no, And like, that's safety. So I remember one of the early mentors I had, it was such a, to me now, it was a cheap mastermind back then. Like it was like clearly for people in startup that like had $0. And I signed up. I said, okay, well, I'm over all my fear now, so I'm ready to start. And she goes,
That's hilarious.
She goes, you're over it? She goes, what do you mean you're over it? And I can actually remember the moment. I was like, yeah, I'm over my fear. Like I'm ready to do this now. And the way she reacted, she didn't call me out, but she was like, you're over fear? Like it's gone. And I'm like, yeah, it's gone. But it was just like gone for a moment in time, right?
Yeah.
Like that day it was not there. Not realizing. So now when people say that to me, they're like, how do you get over this? How do you get over fear, over guilt, over overwhelm, over all the things? And I'm like, you manage it, you co-create with it. Like, so when I often talk about, or I remember this moment as well. I mean, I'm going deep into my
I love
story,
it.
but so in 2013, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer while I was in startup in my business, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So I like signed the papers to leave my job. So I had no safety net, financial safety net. My youngest was a year old. So I have 3 boys at the time. They were like 9, 5, and 1. And so I didn't have financial privilege to not work. I was doing coaching calls, and I still, if you can see me, I use the whole hand for the phone. I don't use it like an iPhone or something. Like I was making calls from my hospital bed. I was doing coaching calls on the phone from my hospital bed. I wasn't using Zoom. We had Skype back then. And, I remember my client saying to me, I actually have no problems now. Watching how you are leading and showing up, and still the fact that you can show up for me from your hospital bed. And I would tell them, like, so if I got sick or something, I was like, I can't do this. And they're like, absolutely, it was fine. But I was slowly starting to learn how to manage my energy. Those calls actually gave me life. I think they were super healing during that time. But I mean, that's a whole other blur of a time. And that was a moment where I was like, I'm good enough, I make good money, all of that, the resistance to receive more. I was like, this is what happens when you keep that story. This is what happens. You don't have the privilege. Like I didn't have the privilege to fully heal because I couldn't financially afford it. But I remember talking about this in my TEDx talk where I said the war of art, Stephen Pressfield. I was like, if you resist it, that is literally the next door you should probably open. And if you want to buy back so much of your time and energy, open the doors that you are absolutely terrified to open, because that is going to buy back so much of your energy.
And I think it's such an important growth tool, because where all this resistance is coming up is 1000%. I agree with you, where you need to look.
How do you teach somebody to get there though? Like, is it life experience? Like, do you recall when you were like, I understand this growth game now? Like, I get it.
Well, no, I mean, yes and no. I was one of those people who was born who never really felt like they fit in. So, in high school, I never really felt like I fit in. And then, in other groups, I didn't feel like I fit in. And so like, I think because of some family circumstances that happened when I was younger, I started on a healing process very early. My mom passed away when I was 21 years old, very suddenly. So it was kind of like, okay, I need to deal with this grief and everything. So I started practicing yoga. And I think getting into regular practice like that shows, that's where I kind of learned this principle of like stepping into what it is that you fear, right? Or stepping into the resistance. And eventually I ended up teaching yoga, but when you're learning how to do some of these very challenging poses and you're holding your entire body weight with your forearms and doing like a scorpion, let's say, and curling your toes over to try to hit your forehead or something like that, there's a lot of reason, because you're literally defying gravity. And it almost seems impossible when you see someone else doing that, when you're just starting a practice, to think that that's even available to you when you're stiff, right? And so the way that I think getting involved with a practice like that very early on in my life at 22, 23, 24 years old, and then eventually teaching it for many, many years, in addition to running my multiple businesses, because I like to do a lot of things. It really showed me that the more that you just keep taking movement towards the thing that you want, the resistance just starts to dissolve. And so the way that I've always approached it and the way that I coach people through it is just, I think one of the reasons why we have so much resistance too is because the thing we want, or the thing that's coming up from a resistance standpoint, feels so big, right? Let's say we have this dream of launching a new business. We've never started a business before. You just talked about this, right? And you have this identity of being an employee and it feels risky and you're doing all these things. Most entrepreneurs don't know how to run a business necessarily before they start running a business. You learn to run a business by running a business. It's just in the doing that the resistance starts to get dissolved, right? And sure, you should definitely learn from people who've done it before you. You should get a mentor or a coach. You should join a mastermind in a group. All of that highly recommended. But all these people, I talk to people every single day, literally. They're like, well, I'll invest in your program when I actually have the sales to invest in it, versus like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing here. So I either need to learn how to do that and figure out how to do that, or invest in something that's going to teach me how to do that. So it's like, I think people get stuck in this chicken or the egg thing. I don't know about you with your coaching. It's like, I need to do this before that. But what if the thing that is the thing that's going to help them do this? So what I've always done and what I coach people through is just taking steps every single day that move you towards the thing that you want. So, and then all of a sudden you've hit the goal, which is the crazy thing. And I think this other thing, I coach on this a lot, and I don't know if this has ever come up for you. People have a lot of resistance around setting a big goal or a target when they're, especially creatives, because I work primarily with highly creative people, because they feel ashamed. And shame is so powerful, I think, in this whole conversation, and probably the underlying emotion that people experience when resistance comes up. They feel a lot of shame if they don't hit the goal. And to me, it's so weird. I set goals like every single day that I never hit. Like today, I'm like, I'm going to make $10,000 today. Am I going to make it? I don't know. We'll see at the end of the day, but am I going to beat myself up if I don't make $10,000 today? No, it's just like a target. Like, at least I tried, you know what I'm saying? And that momentum that you start to build brings you closer to that thing. And so people like have resistance to setting a goal because they get down on themselves that they don't hit it. And then they start this negative self-talk, like you're a loser. Like, who are you to think that you should be setting goals like that? And like, I'm just going to go back to what feels safe. And this is all, we know this, all subconscious programming. And at the end of the day, what if you set a goal? Like I set $10,000 and I made $5,000. Wouldn't that be awesome that I made $5,000? Right? That's way better than making $0.
Yeah. And the day, like, I'm sure you remember a time where you're like $5,000. OMG. That's a lot of money.
Right.
And it's like creating goals, reach for the stars, land on the moon. And I just did this morning or yesterday with the team, and we were having like a little sprint goals. And I could feel myself having this reaction, which could have turned into shame of like, or fear of like, you can't say that number out loud, Heather, because what if you don't hit it? And I remember like, and I was like, I'm like, and what if you don't? Who fucking cares? The sun will still shine. So what? So when even you just saying I make goals every day and I don't hit them, I fail. The funny part to me is like, I do that too. And there is when people are like, tell me about all your failures. I cannot on the top of my mind tell you what I have failed at. Because I failed at so many things, but I don't even want to invest that much time or energy making a list of it because I've already moved on. And to me, the definition of failure is when you've decided to quit something And so like, what if I fail? What if I fail? And I know now, and many moments in my life, and like I dive deep into this in my book and on the podcast, failure was not an option. I didn't have the privilege to fail.
Right.
So I got pregnant at 18. I was so terrified. I remember looking at my son for the first time thinking, what if I fail? What if I fail? And I was like, well, you can't fail at this. So you don't have the privilege to fail, Heather. The fear is so big for you. You got to fight like hell not to quote unquote fail, which I swung a little too far. And then that's a whole other conversation of like over mothering, over nurturing. I mean, just look at our modern culture. But I'm like, unless you quit, what did you actually fail at?
This is true. I mean, and this goes back to, I mean, this is in anything in life, right? It's like, if you keep going, there's just going to be some sort of upside. I mean, there are certain things that you should probably quit if it's not working, if it's harming you or, getting you into significant
But is that a failure?
debt. No.
Is that a failure?
It's a pivot.
It's a pivot.
I think so. I mean, what do you think?
If I have a big, of course, I pivot on a daily basis. If it's aligned, if you have a big dream that's aligned, and you're like, I want this so bad. What if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? That's a very different energy than leaving an incredibly toxic relationship. If I leave, I'm a failure. That's not the same thing.
No, that is not the same thing. In 2008, my first business was completely wiped out. I had to file for bankruptcy. I felt like the biggest failure. But I realized, in hindsight, and even talking to a lot of people, like so many of my colleagues and peers at that time were like, the only reason why I made that through that is because I got a huge order from X, Y, and Z, and they actually paid. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I just was one of the unlucky ones who ended up taking orders from accounts that did not pay and then had my jewelry and wiped out the business and the whole thing. My partner, Jason, said to me, he's like, is that a failure? Something that you literally could not control, a market crashing? You made a choice to close your business after that because it was not aligned with where you are now. And so I do think that there is a fine line between, is it out of alignment and are you energetically aligned with what you're creating versus is this whole thing like a complete failure and a bomb? Because like you said, it was interesting when you were saying, I fail or you said something about failing and you can't remember any of the failures and all of that stuff. That's the only one that I would say like that is a big moment in my life where I was like, oh, well, that could be perceived as a failure. But actually it was the biggest teacher for me. And because that happened, it actually freed me up to step into a new direction that I actually wanted to be going in. And that's where I think if we can look at the opportunity in front of us, there's a woman named Carly, and I'm blanking on her last name. I had a call with her. She's the psychic coach on Instagram. And she talks a lot about this. It's like the universe is going to show you the way. First, it will be a little nudge. Then it will be a knock. Then it's going to be the rhino. So I felt like that moment was a rhino. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, I'm just going to disrupt everything because you're not listening, because you're completely burnt out. And because what you were creating is not aligned with what you think success looks like now, you're continuing to run on a treadmill that is not yours, or you're continuing to run a race that is not yours. And until you take a look at that, we're going to like smack you upside the head. And so that you have to look at it and pivot and take a new direction. And so now when I look back at that experience, gosh, it was almost like 20 years ago now, or 17 years ago, it feels like such a gift because who knows what would have happened to my health or whatever if I would have kept doing something that was not aligned with where I really wanted to go.
When I'm really low and I start praying, that's when I know I'm desperate. And when I say that is because I am spiritually led and I believe in the universe and God and source and all the things. But when I start literally praying, that's when I'm like, wow, I'm digging deep for trust and trust the process and trust in something bigger. Cause that's just not typically the way I operate like on a daily basis, but I have those moments where I get the opportunity to connect. And what do they say? Rejection is God's protection.
Yes.
and, however you define God, universe, source. And I've been saying that more and more and more. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so every opportunity where I feel like, oh, I should have closed that deal. Like, why didn't I get that? Like I'm pushing against it. Like I'm like,
trying so hard, wanting the
Yes.
thing that's not right for you or not meant for you.
And that's where I love energy management, because I'm like, okay, if this energy, like, how are you showing up right now? Like you're pushing. Do you like being pushed, Heather? Do you like when people are forceful on you? You're going to retract. You're going to pull back. So that's what you want, is doing that. So let it in, soften, relax. There's a woman that I speak to a lot of women on a daily basis. And I think last week, and she said, I'm afraid I'm going to have a stroke.
Ooh.
She's not even just in a survival state. She's in, I think, a crisis state. She goes, if something doesn't change, like, I'm afraid I'm going to have a stroke. And I was like, is that not a wake up call for you? And she just can't give herself permission to do it. I said, what's going on? Like, what are you afraid of? She goes, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. And I'm like, is getting to the point where you cause yourself to have a stroke, do you consider that failure, or the potential of diving into something? I said, is it a fear of failure, or that you actually don't trust yourself? The disconnect that we have from ourselves, like our soul, but also deep self-trust within ourselves.
Yes.
Like when you constantly abandon yourself, you have broken the foundation of trust with yourself. And I've seen over the years, and not just in business, but in life, when you don't get a back door and it's crisis after crisis after crisis, and you get back up. I'm like, at this point, I could probably be thrown anything. Yes. And I'm like, I will be terrified. I will be in fetal position. I will cry. I know I won't quit. And I can honestly say, I deeply do trust myself.
I love that. And it's really important, because there's something I wanted to say. Let me backtrack a little bit. I've been in this huge season of waiting for this very specific reason, because I've built this great business. I knew that something needed to change. I was not personally aligned with what I'd created after 14 years. And I had some options. I could close the business down. I could try to sell it, which I didn't have the right opportunities come in, or I could wait and see and let myself have the time to get the clarity so that it came in. And I've been interviewed about this a lot. I've intentionally descaled my 7+ figure brand on purpose so that we had the space to wait and see what happened or what we could come up with. And what we realized was, over the past 14 years, we had created some incredible programs. And we also see the market change. And what everyone wanted was support and coaching, and to be in a community, in a space where they felt like they could get their questions answered. People didn't want a course anymore. They didn't want some of these other things. So the answer was actually sitting right in front of us, but we were so tied sometimes to what had happened in the past. And I think this is where people get in trouble. They don't have a vision for where they're going. And when you're not aligned with something, it's hard to create a vision for anything, because you're just like so in the present, like energetic resistance and like muck and like trying to survive or whatever, that it's hard to get clarity. And that's totally normal. So sometimes you just have to sit in that discomfort, in that resistance, in that space of not knowing that if you trust yourself enough, that the answer is going to drop in. And I want to share this story only because it took us a very long time. And there was a moment earlier this year where we thought I was going to close the business down. I'm like, maybe it's not that I'm quitting or giving up, but we had a long run. We served thousands and thousands of people, and Tracy's going in a different direction, and maybe that's okay. But then my coaches come back and they're like, the community, like, they love it. Like, let us do this. So what we came up with was like one core offer that was basically a blend of everything that we'd done before, but we were having a hard time like really turning it into one thing until I finally got like everyone on board with that idea. And so I'm glad that I waited and I wasn't rash in doing that. And part of the process of getting to the next level, you know, when you are running a race that's not yours anymore and you're feeling burnout and you feel like resentful towards your community or you're resentful towards the people in your life or your team, because what is actually happening is like a resentment with yourself for actually like continuing to tolerate something that is not aligned for you. That's a moment to take a look inside to get back into recalibrate everything. And so we launched this new offer, and I literally am in so much shock right now because the response has been so great. Oh, it was just sitting here all along. We just needed to rethink what we did, because before, you know, the community that I serve with jewelry designers, a lot of the people that come to us, they can't afford a $10,000 a year program, and they don't see the value in investing in it, especially if they haven't experienced working with us yet. So what if we could take the coaching that we had in that $10,000 program, strip away the things that were expensive about the program, right? That we commanded the $10,000 price point for, blend in all the rest of the things, and then have it be something that can really serve people at all different stages, because it's not a one size fits all program. It's like you take what you need and come and get coached from us. And it was so liberating to actually sit in that process, because had I made a different decision and not just paid attention to what was going on within me, the future would have been obviously very different, but also I probably would have given up something that has been so great in my life. And there's a lot, the story is still unfolding. So it's not like there's a lot still happening with all of that. But the point being is, like, I've had this passion for launching a new brand for a whole variety of creatives who really want to build wealth in their business and in their lives. They want to be wealthy creatives. And having this new offer actually gives me the freedom, because it's not something that requires launches. People can come in at any given time. And I kept listening and I kept trusting. And this is the question I want to answer to you, because part of this, the nudge, the knock, and the rhino thing is like, how do you get your internal guidance to know that you're moving in the right direction? That's the question I wanted. Because every time I would ask, like, should I close it? It was like, and I wanted to close it, trust me, because it felt like a burden at the time. And it kept saying no. And I'm like, why is it saying no? It's interesting.
How do you get a no or a yes? Like, how does that show up for you? And I'll tell you my process.
Well, for me, I'm a body person, so I feel it in my body. Like whenever I feel stressed about something, it's like starts here and it spirals up to my throat kind of thing. So a no is like constriction energy, and a yes is spaciousness. And it's usually my voice telling me, which is weird, because I'm like, that's just my mind telling me what to do. But I'm like, is this a yes or is it a no? And I have this internal guidance system. So I kind of channel my angels and guides, and a yes is a tap on the left bicep, and a no is a tap on the right bicep. And then it's also the feeling in my body. It's hard to explain because it's like different for everyone.
Well, number one, I love that you're just intuitively explaining your process and not telling me some 5-step framework of.
Oh, it can't be though.
No. And I had this argument with somebody recently, conversation about intuition. And she's like, oh yeah, I've taken like 5 courses on intuition. I said, well, you don't trust yourself. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, what's your biggest challenge right now? And she's like, that I don't trust myself. And I was like, taking 5 courses on intuition and you're stuck in inaction. I said, yeah. You really want to learn how to trust yourself? I said, that's a courage game. And tapping in, sure, listen intuitively, but you got to feel through it. And then sometimes you just, okay, it feels like a yes. So I'm going to say yes. And then you say yes. And you're like, oh shit, was that supposed to be a no? Or was that a yes and I'm just uncomfortable? So like for me, I have, again, just have felt into it. And in this moment, I probably can't even explain how some things are yeses and some are nos, because it could also be, yes, I am very physical and I'll tap in. But at the same time, I'm like, does this give me energy, take away energy? Like the thought of doing this.
Right. That's a good one.
If I can't make decisions and I'll be like, okay, so for the next 24 hours, I'm going to act as if it's a no. And then I'll be like, oh, wow, that feels lighter. I feel so much better. And then if I'm like, but do you feel better because you were resistant to that and you like got yourself off the hook? So if it creeps back up again, like, and I'm like, it's coming back. So example, I was trying to figure out if I was going to write book number 2. And I'm like, okay, it's there. I could feel it dropping in. And I'm like, okay, is this ego? What is it? And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger because I'll tell you my little journal prompt in a second. And then I go, okay, it's coming. Like, I know. So I'm like, am I going to act on this? Yes or no? So then I actually reached out to a friend who worked with me last time on a book proposal, because I want to formulate the idea. Not everyone needs a proposal, but I want to do that. And I had the conversation with her about doing the proposal, and I'm really excited about it now. Before that conversation with her, I was like, scared and adding drama in my head. And I'm like, okay, I had the conversation. And now that I'm like thinking about possibility, I'm like, wow, Heather, oh my gosh, it's coming. Like I can feel it coming. So I use the journal prompt, wouldn't it be nice if? I use this for everything. I've used it for over a decade. I talk about it all the time. Wouldn't it be nice if? And I tell people, do it the first time, like your big life vision. Wouldn't it be nice if, and you just like write out whatever.
I love this. I'm borrowing it.
Yes, please do. Sometimes, like, let's say I have a lot of conflict in my marriage or with like a team member. I'll think about the person and then I'll write, wouldn't it be nice if, and I write down what I desire. Wouldn't it be nice if this person owned their role? Wouldn't it be nice if they didn't ask me these questions? Wouldn't it be nice if I felt light and easy and free? Wouldn't it be nice if, my husband did this? Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to ask for this? Wouldn't it be nice if whatever? And I'll use it for little buckets of my life or bigger visions. And it's almost the only journal prompt I use when I'm trying to get clarity on my vision. So I wrote, wouldn't it be nice if, and then book number 2 kept popping up on there, one here and there. So when I gave myself permission just to flow, it would pop up. And I was like, so it took a while because I'm like, oh, it keeps popping up. So my point is, I really have leaned into non-attachment I want to be the vessel. I want things to flow through me. And here's the thing. Another thing is I pay attention to, I guess you could call them energy leaks. So I'll tell my clients to write a resentment list. And I'm like, and I think I got that from Terry Cole. So
I love this.
Yes. And so write a resentment list. All the things you're resentful for. The reason why you experience resentment is because there's a boundary required. So you have crossed your own boundary. You have crossed a boundary somewhere, which is why you are angry or resentful now. So which is a good thing because you have control over your boundaries. You just have to learn how to implement them. It's a skill. It's going to be emotionally uncomfortable. But the good news is you actually have control over that. It's not the other person. They're just showing you the boundary that you did not set in place. So you have resentment. You have your wouldn't it be nice list. All of these things are inside. So if I'm using these like internal guidance system, quote unquote, tools, all of a sudden, I start taking action. So as I tell people, I'm like, what's your bigger vision? We're going to get there. The second you start to implement, oh shit, your shit's going to come up. You don't need to be in therapy for 10 years. I mean, you can go, there's a value in that. I'm a former therapist. Yeah. But if you really want to figure out what's blocking you, go after your future.
Yep.
Because that shit will bubble up so fast.
So fast. Trust me, I know. It's coming up right now.
Yeah, the resistance, it will bubble up so fast. That is where, so I will act until it doesn't feel clean anymore. I'm like, ooh, I'm in momentum. Wha-bam, I hit the wall. When I hit the wall, I try not to hustle and break through the wall. I will lean into the wall, and then I try to manage my energy to get through the wall, but I try not to plow through the wall like a rhino.
Yes.
I will
Nope.
lean in and soften into it. And I remember one time I had and then I'll wrap up my thoughts. I read a coach one time and she goes, Heather, you just keep beating your face against this brick wall. Your teeth are going to fall out. She goes, just keep walking along the wall. It will end eventually. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, lean
Oh,
in, put your shoulder there. She goes, just keep leaning in, but stop beating your face against the wall. Like you're going to hurt yourself. And so I would lean
oh, I
in, kind
love
of like
this.
going back to your yoga class. Like I would lean into the edge, the resistance. Okay, lean in a little bit more, lean in a little
Lean
bit
in.
more. And then
Love
I'd
it.
back off. And then eventually the resistance would break and the wall would go down.
Mm, I love that.
Our problems are solved. Our problems are solved. I'm curious your thoughts about this whole business thing because I believe like the term business, like women who are like, I want to start a business.
A business.
They're so addicted to like, it's business, it's business, it's business. And I was like, no, it's not. You want freedom. You want, what do you
Mm,
want? Like business is the physical, do they call it 3D title? But like you're just a soul seeker on a journey that has decided to like challenge yourself in this life. You're doing it for freedom. You're doing it for flexibility. You're doing it to give back. You're doing it for meaning, for purpose. You're doing it because you don't want to be controlled. I'm just curious your perspective on business owners, entrepreneurship versus employees.
well,
Like, why do people have a desire to start a business? It's not for the
I,
faint of heart.
I think it's for a couple of reasons. I've always said this, and we've heard it from other people too, that you're starting a business is the biggest crash course in personal development because you will come up against all your shit.
I say
Like
it's on
that's
steroids.
yeah, exactly. It's the most fulfilling thing and also the hardest thing. I think the people who want to start businesses, they start them for a specific reason. They want to make an impact. They have a passion that they feel like if they don't do it now, why not?
Mm-hmm.
They'll never do it, right? And I also think that they think that starting their own business is going to create flexibility for them and give them financial freedom, which all of those things can be possible if you set a business up the right way. And it's probable if you continue working on your systems and optimizing things to get them off your plate. But I think where people get stuck is they end up starting a business and then they create a job for themselves and then it's hard. And then now they're just an employee for their own company if they don't know how to wind themselves out of it. And I only say this, I only say things that I've done myself. And sometimes you end up going back to something where you thought you would never be again. And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I truly believe that it's not for the faint of heart and that it is really important. But I also think that not everyone should start their own business. Not everyone's cut out for it. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be rude, but I just had my friend Sue Bryce on the podcast and she's a legend. She was like one of Creative Live. I just heard Creative Live shut down, but like one of Creative Live's like top creators for years. And I was talking to another girlfriend of mine. She's like, she's a photographer. And she's like, I want to be a legend like Sue Bryce. And I had Sue on my podcast and I said, what would you say to the creatives who are afraid, fear of rejection and don't want to put themselves out there? And she said, go get a job. It's not for everyone. And understand the difference. Like you will be rejected every single day. You will have demands on you. It is not going to be easy. Even though people like to say it's going to be easy, it won't be. But the passion and the vision and the impact and everything else that you want to create has to outweigh that. Because I'll be honest with you, like there have been moments in the last 2 years where I was like, could I go get a job somewhere? And like the answer is no. And like when you're in that kind of confused state or feeling like I don't know what's next for me because I've had this thing and I've been building it and the way that I'm operating it right now is not serving me. And I know that I'm here for something more and I have these other dreams and passions, but I'm entangled in this situation right now. I've seriously thought like, what else could I do? And it's like I sat with that for a very long time. Like, could I actually go work for someone? I'm like, what are they going to hire me for? To be the visionary of their company? Like, that's like literally what I was like, because that's like my gift is vision and supporting people and helping them think bigger than they think is possible for themselves. So I kind of went off topic here, but I think it all ties together to this idea of like, not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's cut out to start their own business. And there's different levels and degrees, right? But you have to be willing, you have to have the courage, you have to be willing to like butt up against that resistance and do the hard things that are going to move you forward, because it will get hard. Shit gets hard sometimes. And sometimes you're like, why did I even do this? Like, you know, you see those roller coaster memes on Instagram and stuff like that. I mean, that's the real life of what it's like. And
that was me today.
Yeah, I know. It's the journey, but also the reward is the payoff. Like seeing, like for me, I love making money. Let's not make a joke about it. Like it's my favorite thing, but I can't just do something to make money. Otherwise I would just be in sales. I'd be selling medical devices or something that was soulless. You know, it would help people, but it's soulless, you know? I'm not like, I'm changing someone's life, but not in the way that I want to change their life. And it would be really easy because you just go and you clock in, you have a job and you leave and you collect a paycheck if you do well. And that's it. Like, and I'd probably be taking home a lot more money because I'd be really good at it. But for me, it's always been about how can I change people's lives? How can I make an impact? How can I show them that there's a better way? And I think a lot of this, having a mother who died when I was 21 years old, right at the beginning of my life and career, like as an adult, seeing her live her entire life for someone else, and then being at a state where my parents got divorced and her being hopeless because she was taken care of meaning like she didn't work. And my dad supported the family at that point, and she had to go back to work, like seeing her really struggle with that. And then finally get to a place where she was like, I'm going to go start a business. And she had met the man of her dreams and all this stuff. And to see like how the life came back in her because she was like doing something for her finally. I think this is why people do it. Right. And I think the saddest part for me about this, I mean, besides losing my mother, obviously, is that I think part of the reason that I went on this entrepreneurial path, besides it being in my DNA and blood in my family line, but seeing her wait till she was 45 to actually do something for herself was not okay with me. I'm like, I'm going to do it now and figure it out. And not everyone has that kind of drive and ambition and passion, because safety sometimes is way more important to people than having a life that meant something to them. You know what I mean? I don't know. Not that working a job doesn't mean your life's not meaningful. I didn't mean that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's here to do something different. And I think, you know, there's those 6 human needs. It's like one of my core human needs is variety. So that works perfectly for being an entrepreneur, because if you want a lot of change and variety, that is the core of starting a business, because you're taking so much risk, right? So understanding what that is for you, and every good entrepreneur and business owner needs people to work for them. So there's always these hybrid kinds of situations where you could work for a smaller company where you are in an entrepreneurial role and continuing to grow it, but also have the feeling of safety with a paycheck. Yeah, the entrepreneur. Exactly.
Yeah. I have a few entrepreneurs on my team where they're like, I would not want to be you.
Yeah.
I don't like being visible. And I was like, great. I'm like, then you are just hanging out with me, and or I literally give you referrals when colleagues and friends are like, do you have anybody? And I'm like, yep, this person's got capacity. And, you know, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish it was that easy for me, quote unquote. It's always in my head, the story of like, I wish that was easy. And I was like, but you live a different life and you have to take different risks. And, you know, the more I realized a long time ago, and Tracy, I just want to say thank you. I know we'll have to wrap up our conversation, but I remember, like, I just want to say thank you for this conversation. But when you were talking about your mother, I could feel it. Like I was getting emotional. And every time I have a conversation with somebody, I pay attention to when I get emotional. And it's always has something to do with like feeling like a soul connection with like someone else, like someone passed. And when you were talking, I thought, oh, before you said it, but you didn't say this. Oh, she went into business to create a connection with her mother.
Mm.
And
Maybe that's it.
to live out her legacy, or to create the business that she didn't create or didn't have the time to create. Like, mom, like, I'll pass the baton. I'll take it from here.
They're going to make me cry.
I know I'm going to cry. And I feel that so often. Like, my mother lives with us and I'm an only child, and I feel a lot of quote unquote burden on my mother, like financial burden. Like, I know I'm responsible for her. And yet she's passed the baton to me, and I am grateful to hold it, because that woman fought like hell to take care of me when, she was mostly single. My parents divorced when I was like 2 or younger. So I never remember them together. And just watching how she took care of me, sometimes just her nose just barely above water, but, just feeling like she doesn't have a sense of identity. And I watch her, like, she's very opposite of me. She's proud of me, but she may never say that. But she watches me, and I terrify her in the sense of,
like, what is she doing?
Yes. The power and the assertiveness I have sometimes really triggers her. And she's allowed me to soften. But there was a point in my personal work, where I accepted my mother for who she was today, because I was afraid of losing her. And I was like, come on, let's do this. Let's go here. Let's go this. You got to heal. You got to da. I was trying to control her human experience, because I know that she will die one day with unlived life inside of her. And so if I want to make her proud, then I just need to become the woman that I want her to be. And so that's my deeper why of why I do what I do. I want to become the adult that I needed as a child. I want to become the woman that I needed when I was starting my business, and I was drowning in motherhood. Right. And I was like, I want a successful woman to mentor me so I can feed this ambition and not abandon the ambition, but also be present for my kids. And couldn't find one. So I had to become her. So I'm just like, become her. And we can't control other people, but we can pass the baton and say, I got it from here. So let's just cry and wrap it up.
Okay. I'm like,
where can people find you if they're not listening to you already? What do you got going on?
You can find me over on Instagram at I am Tracy Matthews. I have a very fun podcast that you can download over at tracymatthews.com/reinvention season. It's an audio podcast all about being in a season of reinvention, and it's helped thousands of people so far. It's just a fun thing. Please listen to my podcast, Creatives Rule the World, and we'll have links for all of that. Where can everyone find you, Heather?
So my podcast, Emotionally Uncomfortable. I have a book. It's behind me, a little tiny book.
I have a book too.
It's not a tiny book.
Can you see it?
What's your book called?
It's called The Desire Brand Effect: Stand Out in a Saturated Market with a Timeless Jewelry Brand.
Ooh. So my book, Dying to Be a Good Mother. Anywhere books are sold, online and Audibles. Follow me on Instagram at Heather Chauvin. And I have free resources on my website, Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com. And just send me a private message on Instagram. I'm a real human.
I have to tell you something. My friend Paula, right before this interview, I have no idea how she found out that we were having a conversation today. Did you talk to her, Paula Owen? She is like, I heard you're having a conversation with Heather today. And I was like, how did you know? Yes. She's like, she really helped me tap into my gifts. So I just wanted to give you that little shout out.
Okay. We'll talk offline. Paula, I met at another women's event.
Yes.
And here's the fun thing. I think people's children send them to me. So she started talking to me about her kids, and then said, oh, you have like you're special. Like you have you're like a little secret closet healer. And she looked at me with like big eyes. I said, I'm hosting a retreat and I need a photographer. And she came, and by the end of the weekend, she was doing like readings with everybody. And was just
So
cracked
good.
open. And she goes, thank you. And the funny thing is, I never have had like one-on-one coaching with her or anything. I just saw her, who she really was. And I always say, I just, people like, when I walk into networking, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Yep.
Right. I'm sure
Yep.
you feel like, so I go,
Yep.
I just bring souls back to life. And
Yep.
everyone's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to have a conversation about that. I just think my secret, but I guess my secret belief is I believe the secret we're all searching for. It's like the more you become, the lighter you feel, that's everything will fall into place.
This is true. So true. And she's so talented too. She really is. So thank you for
Such
that.
a small world, especially online.
I know.
Yay.
All right, my dear. Thank you.